Welcome into the February 17th edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. Trade wins circling in the NHL as the deadline is 2 weeks away today. Nothing officially getting done, however, yet. But there is a new target in mind that I have for the Toronto Maple Leafs blue line, Dave. Can't wait to tell you and the listeners who it is. So all that more coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother on TSN's Overdrive and TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. Joining me is my co-host, Dave Morassutti from Sportsnet, also a writer for the NHLPA. Locked On Leafs, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast. Be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcasts from. Also look us up on YouTube. It's Locked On Leafs on YouTube. Hit subscribe. We got new videos and podcasts coming out to you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. It's all Leafs all the time. It was an off day yesterday, so not too much going on in Leafland. They don't play again until tomorrow either. So, like I said, this is a pretty quiet week for the Maple Leafs. It was, the back-to-back Friday, Saturday, and then nothing till Wednesday, and then nothing again until Saturday. It's been, the Leafs have had a nice, it's not technically a bye week, but it's been a light week coming off of their actual bye week. It's been a light start to the month for Toronto.
Yeah, all those games in hand they had going into the All-Star break starting to catch up to them a little bit now. Like teams are, as you saw, Tampa inching that much little bit closer to the Leafs. Although thank you to the Arizona Coyotes for only allowing them to get 1 point. Well, actually, we should thank Connor Ingram, not the Arizona Coyotes, because Connor Ingram did his best. Coyotes, I was a little worried about that one, but no, they certainly that's the. I mean, if you're looking for a little bit of a break from the Leafs in this week, you got a little bit of that. If you're looking for more Leafs hockey, you're gonna have to wait a little bit.
We have back this weekend, Chicago or Montreal on Saturday, coming into Toronto, and then they go to Chicago for a road game on Sunday, and hopefully it's a better game than we just saw. The one that was just played here on the road. Maybe they'll play a little bit better in front of their home fans, although I don't think that'll be the case. They're just a pretty god-awful team. But it's another chance to check out those, potential trade targets for, that Chicago has. Didn't put on a very good showing, most of them, especially Patty Kane, when they were in Toronto. Perhaps one more game, one more showing, and they could put on a little bit more of a show for Leafs Nation, a bit more of a better audition, if you will. So there's a couple of things that I want to get to today, just kind of around the league, a bit of a roundup before we kind of get into previewing the weekend games. And this is becoming a situation. And you brought up the Arizona Coyotes, and funny enough, what the Arizona Coyotes are doing right now, they've they haven't lost in 7 games, lost in regulation in 7 games. So they've picked up points in 7 straight. Clayton Keller had a really funny quote actually after the Tampa game, basically saying, "Yeah, I don't know if our GM likes what's going on here, but we're certainly happy about picking up wins. The vibes are good here." And they've done this all week without Jacob Chikrin, who was scratched on Saturday for trade-related reasons. We thought maybe something was imminent, but we sit here Friday morning, still no trade, still nothing. Nothing has gone down, and we still haven't seen him back in action. And they are in LA tomorrow, however. So I wonder if he packs in a suit, couple extra clothes, extra suitcase, and maybe stays behind in LA. They can finally get this thing from the 5-yard line and across the finish line, potentially in person with Rob Blake in LA, the heavily rumored team that he's most likely heading to. But getting scratched for trade-related reasons is becoming a bit of a thing. Like, you see, Gavrikov also now has been traded a couple times for trade-related reasons. Like, does this bother you that this is becoming a thing in the NHL?
I mean, I understand why they're doing it because the last thing you want is for someone to get hurt when you're supposed to be looking to trade them. But I think it's also kind of a convenient excuse for the teams that are well below the standings to just be like, now we got a reason to sit our best players to ensure that we have a better chance to lose, right? We know Columbus wants to ensure their best chance of getting Connor Bedard, so do the Coyotes. So yeah, I'm not bothered by it because at least now it's a little more obvious that they're scratching them for that reason, and they're not just saying, he's got like it's for personal reasons or something like that. That would be more BS in my opinion. But I think the fact that you're gonna sit the guy for trade related reasons is the part that bothers me here is if you're not going to actually trade the guy and you're just holding him out for trade related reasons, like let's say Chikrin doesn't get dealt, if he had like a bonus of like games played, points or something like that, that would be a bit annoying. But you know, I would say I'm not bothered by it. I just hope that they're doing it for the right reasons.
I would be very surprised at this point to see Chikrin not dealt. Like, you can't hold this guy out for trade-related reasons and then not trade him. Like, this has to happen.
Yeah.
Has to happen. And there's been now this because it's become a thing with Gavrikov and Chikrin. I think they asked like Luke Shan out in Vancouver, hey, what would you think about sitting out for trade related reasons if your name started to garner a lot of interest? And he basically poo pooed it. He's like, nah, I'd want to play because now you look at Chikrin, it's like it's been out for a week. I mean, if he's out any longer, like let's say this takes till March 3rd, if they don't play him until March 3rd, that's going to be like literally 3 weeks that this guy hasn't played hockey. It's going to take you a little bit to get back up to speed.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of counterintuitive. Like I understand you want to make sure he's healthy and all that, but it's you also want him to hit the ground running with your team right away, not have to take a few games to just get back into game shape after not playing games for 3 weeks.
Exactly. I would hope that I guess maybe the thought was that the trade with LA was really close or whoever the team was, and they thought it was going to get done, and then something fell on the wayside, and now they're just like, well, we can't unscratch, like we can't decide now all of a sudden he could play again just because a deal fell through. Like
Well,
I think that
you can.
you could. It's just going to be really awkward. Hey, so we held you out because we thought we were going to trade you, but now we're not going to trade you. So you got to get your butt back. I mean, he's got to play. Like, there's no. If I'm Chikrin, I'm playing because you want to do what you can to get the heck out of there because it seems like he's been wanting to for a while. So it'd just be so funny if that ends up being the case. But yeah, they gotta. I know. I remember the head coach saying, let's wait until the let's see what we're waiting to see what happens. And it pretty much is feeling like if he's not traded by the deadline, he's gonna get back in the lineup for sure.
Yeah. Apparently, the reason why the deal fell through, I saw Darren Dreger actually reporting this yesterday on Insider Trading, was eh, they're unwilling to take on any salary in trades, apparently. So, in order for the deal to happen, I guess LA or whatever this mystery team, we're assuming LA, they wanted to add like some salary to make the money work for their team, and they're like, no, we're only interested in entry level contracts, rookies, and draft picks. It's like that's going to thin out the market there for Jacob Chikrin if that's all you want, and you're not even willing to take salary back just to make it cap work. Like in today's cap world, like you got to do that. Like I don't know if that's going to impact the return if they're not willing to take on salary. It's like that's I don't know. I found that really odd that could be the holdup was they realized, you know what, we don't want to take on a player contracts. Like if it was Toronto, right, and they wanted to throw in, Kerfoot's deal just to make the money work, that wouldn't fly for Arizona. They would just straight up be like, no, we're only interested in picks and rookies on their entry level contracts. I find that really, really odd. And I like that's not going to get you the best return.
No, it's being like it's been unrealistic. Like the teams that move on from guys like this have to take some contract. Like I think back to like Jack Eichel, right? Like let's say the Sabres decide, oh, we didn't want to take this, and this guy. Like then Jack Eichel ain't being traded. Like I understand that many view Jacob Chikrin as a top trade target and for a lot of reasons, but the other team is the teams that are trading for him aren't flush with cap space. Like
Oh,
it's funny because Arizona Coyotes were willing to take all these deals in the past. We know that this team is not going anywhere soon. So I don't understand why all of a sudden now they're drawing that hard line. All of a sudden now they're just like, yeah, no, we're just not gonna do what we've been doing the last 5-6 years.
well, that owner seems real. Was it Alex Marullo? Is he the new owner in Arizona? That guy, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about him. It's there's a lot of things that have happened since he's become owner. He likes to run a pretty Mickey Mouse operation, it seems. So I don't know, but it definitely is not a good thing. I can tell you that. All right, let's take a break. When we get back, there was another report on the same insider trading about a certain team, and they could be a little more open for business than we initially thought. And there's a blue liner on that team that intrigues me. Let's talk about that on the other side. But first, Dave, how about a word from one of our show sponsors?
Yep. If you are looking to get back on track with your New Year's resolutions, then you got to try a Built Bar. Went through the holiday season. I'm sure many of you probably compromised some of those resolutions. And the reason why you should look at getting a Built Bar is because they are not only great tasting, but they're made in 100% real chocolate, and they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond, and they maintain amazing macros. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein per bar. And you don't need to waste around time to go and get a box. For years, Built has been trying to get Built bars into stores. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section. Grab yourself a box of Built bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or even coconut puffs. If you're even close to a Sam's Club, run in, grab a 13-bar box with flavors like brownie batter and churro. You can thank me later. Of course, if you like to go and buy your Built bars online, you can go online at built.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON15 to get 15% off your next order. That is promo code LOCKEDON15 to get 50% off your next order at built.com.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. No Leafs tonight, but we got a back-to-back this weekend. Montreal comes to town, and then Toronto heads out to Chicago for their second meeting of the week against the Blackhawks. So, there'll be plenty of opportunities to get some eyeballs on some trade candidates. But one trade candidate that is kind of potentially available that's popped up on my radar. I'll tell you who it is. So there was a report yesterday on Insider Trading, Pierre LeBrun talking about the St. Louis Blues, which we know are in seller mode. They already moved on from Tarasenko. Ivan Barbashev has been a player of interest that a lot of people talked about for the Maple Leafs. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Ryan O'Reilly as well. But apparently they might be willing to part with a defenseman as well. In comes the name Colton Parayko. Does that pique your interest, Dave?
You see the smile that just went on my face. If there is a defenseman that would be a perfect fit for the Toronto Maple Leafs, it would be Colton Parayko. Like Jacob Chikrin was the flashy, nice defenseman that you could add if you want to get a little bit of that scoring touch. But if you want, and I was listening to a couple of Leaf radio shows yesterday, And one in particular kind of mentioned how they feel like the Leafs aren't ready for the toughness of a series against the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think Colton Parayko could kind of help with that. Like if you add Colton Parayko, that changes the dynamic of this Leafs blue line. And he's a guy I've had my eye on. Like I've watched quite a bit of Colton Parayko just because I think he is like a very underrated defenseman, and he has been for a while. Like St. Louis was okay to get rid of Alex Pietrangelo because they had Colton Parayko. And this guy, I can't remember his deal right now, but it's not a very expensive deal that he is on. Like
6.5 for I think 7 more years. I want to say.
like for a defenseman that's a top pairing guy, he's got the size, he does have some, he's got some offensive ability. Like he's the type of guy the Leafs should have always been wanting to get. I think St. Louis kind of got themselves into a good position when they drafted him. I think it was in the second round, if I'm not mistaken.
He's a third round pick back in 2012, but 6'6", 230 pounds,
A
right
nasty.
shot, 29 years old, and over the course of his career, 963 block shots, 698 hits, and he's a really really solid player. He's got 224 points, I guess, in 549 games, career high 35 last season in 80 games. He also got the same back in 17-18. The only question mark I suppose I have that on that, Dave, is the style of game that he plays, which is very rugged, defensive, throwback type of style, which is exactly what we think the Maple Leafs need and why we think it could be a good fit. But at 29 years old, knowing he has 7 more years on that contract at $6.5 million, does that worry you at all?
It's a bit of a longer deal than you probably want to spend on a guy who plays that style. I mean, especially players who have that bigger frame, that time that tends to wear them down a little bit more. So yeah, there is some concern there, but you look at his career, and early on, I would say that he's been pretty durable. Like he hasn't really been dealing with too many injury concerns. Like I think if I'm not mistaken, during the lockout short year, he did miss a little bit of time, but like I'm not concerned about injuries per se with him. I'm not like it's not like he has a history of bad injuries where I'm like, okay, this could be an issue all of a sudden. So, and look, he was a big part of that Stanley Cup team, right? So he's got that experience. He's been on 2 long playoff runs. One of them came in his rookie season, right? So this is someone who is not afraid of those moments either.
Yeah, that new deal just kicked in this season
Yeah.
too. Like, I don't know if he is available. Like I said, I just saw a report that they would be willing to um, move it to a defenseman on their roster, and immediately my ears perked up and went, "Oh, does that mean they would listen on Parayko? Could Parayko be available?" Like I'm sure in their mind he would be very hard to get. Like you're talking about
Yeah.
moving multiple pieces, I would think.
Oh yeah.
For Colton Parayko, like that's where Matthew Nyes comes into play, the first round pick. Like this is the player that you trade those top assets for, right? He's got term. He fits the need exactly what you need, and he's just a flat out good player.
Like
Brings some leadership, Stanley Cup champion. He's kind of checks all the boxes for you.
the question I have here is: does St. Louis just decide with all their like pending defensemen that are going to be coming up here, $6.5 million? Here you go. Like legitimately, Krug, Falk, and Parayko all signed for $6.5 million to long-term deals. Like was 6.5 just like a nice number that Doug Armstrong loved so much?
Yeah, I guess.
Like, and all of them have no trade clause, including Nick Leddy, who signed for 4 more years, and he has a no trade clause. The only defensemen that don't have no trade clause on the Blues is Robert Bortuzzo, Tyler Tucker, and Callie Rosen.
Yeah.
Like Robert Bortuzzo, he has 2 more years left at $950,000. He's a guy that if you're looking to bring in a depth player, bring some of that nastiness lower in your lineup, he's a guy I would consider too. But it would have to be at the right price, right? Like I'm not wasting major assets on a Robert Bertuzzo.
Mid-round draft pick, like a Joey Anderson maybe goes the other way, like one of these older prospects where it's fringe NHL type guys where it's like, hey, they'll give you an opportunity and you're in the bottom six and you could play some actual games and
exactly.
It's an NHL body, I suppose. But yeah, like I'm not giving up a whole lot for Bobby Bortuzzo. But for Colton Parayko, I think I would be willing to give up quite a significant package to get that guy in the fold, and that also be like a long term piece for the Maple Leafs as well. So it's a really interesting name that's kind of popped up on my radar. We'll see if St. Louis is willing to go there. Like that is clearly that's a player who they drafted, developed, won a championship with, and looked at as kind of the future of their blue line. But if they're really willing to blow it all up, like Tarasenko's gone, Ryan O'Reilly's pretty close to being gone, Ivan Barbashev's going to be traded. There could be a couple other pieces that go too. So maybe they're willing to strip it down a little bit, get some picks and prospects, retool, and then in a few years when Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou, 26, 27 years old, then they could compete, and that's the next wave, I suppose. So if that's the case, Parayko's 32 by then, 33 maybe by then. Are they willing? Like, is he still going to be part of that mix, part of that future? Maybe not. Maybe they like to move on from him and get someone who fits that timeline a little bit better. And hey, Toronto, they'd be looking for a nice, steady Eddie, right shot, top pair defenseman. I can guarantee you that one. So that's another interesting name that kind of enters the fold here, and someone that I think Kyle Dubas should most certainly be given a call to Doug Armstrong about. It's like, hey, so while we're on the topic of Ryan O'Reilly and Ivan Barbashev, Colton Parayko, what would it take to maybe add him to a package we got going here with these guys? So we'll see. We'll see. All right, we'll take one more quick break when we get back. Let's tee up the weekends back-to-back. Montreal coming to Toronto on Saturday. Then the Buds are in Chicago for a Sunday night 6 p.m. game. So they got to travel. They're the team on the back-to-back this time in Chicago. So we'll chat about what our expectations are about this weekend's upcoming games, who we might see, who might sit, all that and more coming up on the other side. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. Listen to Locked On These podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Welcome back into the Locked On These podcasts. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. So we got a back-to-back coming up this weekend. Leafs hosting Montreal on Saturday, then they're in Chicago on Sunday. I mean, you got to expect a full 4 out of 4 points this weekend. Like, I know it's a back-to-back, and it's Montreal, who always gives Toronto, heck, but it's in Toronto, so you should be able to get that win against Montreal. And then, what we saw at Chicago the other night, that team just flat out sucks. So you got to get a full 4 points out of this weekend, Dave. It's got to happen.
Yeah, I mean, they've had some time. They've had 2 days off here. 4 points has to be the expectation. Like, look, if they get 3 points, am I gonna be like screaming to the roof? No. But if they get anything less than 3 points, like that's flat out just disappointing and embarrassing. Like they should be getting the full 4 points.
Well, let me put a scenario here then, Dave, to challenge you on this. Okay, so they go in, they dummy Montreal, let's say 5-1 in Toronto, and then they go into Chicago and they lose 5-4 in overtime. You gonna be pissed?
Like, I won't be happy, but they also, I mean, they would get at least 3 out of the 4 points, which you have to just take the points where you can get them. But at the same time, yeah, I won't be happy about it, but I won't be like throwing things at my TV, Philadelphia Eagles fans type of mad.
Yeah, no, I'm probably not going to go and punch my hand through the television. Yes, I think I also won't be doing that. But I don't know, man. Like they got to start winning these games against these bottom tier teams. Like I think they've only won 5 out of 12 games against the bottom 7 teams in the National Hockey League. So got to start winning these games, man. It's got to start happening. Um, Especially with Tampa on their heels. They just got to keep up and they got to keep winning so that they can still remain with home ice advantage. Like, I understand. I was having an interesting conversation actually with Liam McHugh from TNT, and he threw out what I thought was quite a take, actually. Um, he said if Toronto didn't end up winning home ice, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And he said maybe they would actually mean that they would have less pressure on them in a game 7 if they were in Tampa, and maybe they'd be better off not getting home ice advantage. What do you make of that take?
I would not. I just wouldn't want to be in a hostile type of environment for a game 7. You know, like you saw how game 6 things kind of unraveled for them in Tampa. Like imagine that type of like there's gonna be pressure no matter the scenario. I understand that maybe being at home, there's gonna be some tension, but like a tense atmosphere. But I'd rather have the best opportunity with your home crowd behind you than away. Where I mean, a lot of Leafs fans would probably travel to Tampa in that case, but I would rather take my chances at home. First off, I'd rather not have to do a game 7. I think that'd be a nice change of pace. So having home ice would give you the best shot of not having to do with a game 7 as well.
Yes, this is true. Although if you win game 6 and you win the series 4-2, you did win the final game on home ice, and it doesn't even matter where game 7's played.
If you can split the first 2 games where you're on the road, sure, I would be okay. I mean, the Leafs did win a game in Tampa. It's not
Yeah.
like they can't win in Tampa in the playoffs. It's just we know how hard it
One
is.
though, like this, they only won one game in Tampa,
Yeah,
and you got to win 2. Unfortunately, if you're,
if you got
I
if you
guess technically you could only have to win 1. If you win all 3 of your home games, and then the only one you win is game 7, I suppose that's you could still win a round. But anyways, that was just something that I thought about. But like that's why it is important to get the wins against teams like Montreal and Chicago. Like if you do believe that getting home ice matters, it's going to come down to getting these wins. And look, I understand that Tampa loses to these teams as well. Like we're not ignorant to the fact that Tampa also has some tough losses to some bottom tier teams. Heck, they just lost to the Arizona Coyotes the other night. So we're well aware of that, but it's still like Toronto. This is a chance for them to take advantage of that by getting wins against lesser opponents as well. And then, when they play their tough opponents, when they wake up for those games, they can also win those as well. And then end up with home ice advantage. All right. So, a couple questions I have for you here. One, do you give Timmins another game do you keep him in the lineup for the game on Saturday, or do you put Justin Hall back into the lineup? And then, which game does Joseph Wall get into?
I think you have Connor Timmins in Saturday against Montreal. If he doesn't play ball, then you have every reason to put Justin Hall back in on the Sunday. And then I would go with Wall against Chicago. I think you go with your kind of traditional setup with your goaltenders.
Yeah, I think I would probably agree with you on both of those circumstances. So, Connor Timmins, I think, deserves another game, right? And when Keefe put Timmins in the lineup, he said something to the effect of, we've been looking to get him in, and, don't give me a reason to take someone else out. And Justin Hall gave him a reason to take him out of the lineup on Saturday after the Columbus game. Timmins didn't give him a reason to take him out of the game against Chicago. Now, afterwards, Sheldon Keefe did say he's not taking much out of that game, but I hope it doesn't mean that he's not even willing to reward him for the good game and he's going to take him out of the lineup. I am hoping he does get at least one more shot to do what he can do. I mean, the guy's got 13 points in 19 games. Like, he's extremely productive, like a point per game basis or point per 60 basis. He's right there with like the Quinn Hugheses of the world.
Yeah.
It's crazy what Connor Timmins has been able to do in such a limited time with the Maple Leafs. So yeah, I think that he should get at least one more game. Give Hall just an extra night to, give himself a little reset up in the press box, and hopefully he can have a pretty good stretch run here and help this team in the playoffs. Or maybe they bring in Colton Parayko and he becomes more accustomed to the press box potentially. Who knows what happens with that guy? But yeah, should be a good weekend for the Maple Leafs. Should be able to pile up some points and get some wins. Point night potentially for the guys. A revenge game against Montreal after losing to them a couple of weeks ago, you would think, and then get in there and just dummy Chicago again. That's how I'm expecting this weekend to go. All right, buddy. Good stuff today. Enjoy your what are you up to this weekend? Got anything going on?
Ooh, bowling night on a Friday night. Excited about that. I suck at bowling. Unfortunately, I did not carry my family's lineage and having really good bowling skills.
Bumpers up?
No bumpers. No, I wish. I want the things where the kids can throw the bowling ball down there's like a special thing that you can put the bowling ball on.
Yeah. To be honest, I thought that was for grannies.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
So young kids, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And on Monday for Family Day, the Leafs they're hosting like a Family Day skate at their Ford Performance Center. So I will be checking that out with some of my cousins and their kids, and they get to see how terrible I am at skating.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, I wonder if anyone else listening is going to go down for that because that's
going down. I'll be there. Just you see my ugly mug in person now.
Yeah, he's got a nice, shiny, new bald head. Looks like he did get himself a little haircut recently. So just look for the shiny guy, the one that's not Mark Giordano or Manny Malhotra or Spencer Carberry. You should probably see if you can get a job actually as like an assistant coach in Toronto. You have the qualifications.
Yeah, looks like they have a type.
They do seem to have a type. Although Sheldon's got a pretty good head of hair on him. I don't know why I noticed that the other day. He's got like it's always in pristine condition too. Pristine condition. Sheldon.
Some are just blessed, and some of us just know how. Some of us, I'm not going to call it a curse because there are some very handsome bald people out there.
Fair enough. All right, buddy. Let's call it quits for the day. Enjoy the long weekend. I don't believe we'll be doing a show on Monday. Maybe we'll do one later in the day. If not, we'll be back for sure Tuesday with some new content for you. We'll see what happens on the holiday. But I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcast platforms. Receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. Follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. Subscribe, leave a thumbs up and a comment down below. If you're on YouTube, let us know. Does Colton Parayko interest you? Or is there another defenseman potentially on the Blues who apparently are willing to listen on some Blue Liners? Does anyone else interest you or pique your interest? Let us know in the comment section down below. All right. Enjoy the long weekend, everybody. We'll be back with another episode either Monday or Tuesday. Hit the notification bell, and then you will know exactly when new episodes come out anyways. We'll catch y'all next week. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.